Okay guys, I'm going to do a quick video here, give you a little bit of update on my solar setup. I've been running this for probably a month or so now, and let me see if you can see it here. If you see the little lights blinking, okay, those are called longmans, okay? And those little connections go from battery to battery, and that monitors the voltage in each pack. Each one of these packs here are 150 cells, okay, and they're in parallel. All these are in parallel, so it just basically makes one huge 4-volt battery. So this one's 4, 8, 12, and so on up to 24 volts, fully charged. It's about 28, 29 volts. Okay, I only run them probably around 28 or so, and that way they're not fully charged. Don't run them completely down. Now, this right here is a computer that's hooked to this over here, which is my inverter charger. So this is a solar inverter. So what it does, it takes the DC voltage, inverts it to make AC voltage, and this is also acts as a charger. So it does like 3 things. I mean, it's got multiple things. Up here's the software, if you can see on the screen. And what the software does is let you control this, and you can actually see a lot of the settings on the screen over here. I'll show it in a second, but it makes it so much easier using the app on the laptop. But this gives you a reading each day. It shows you how much you produced from the sun. Right now I'm running around per day between 6 and 8 kilowatt coming in from 4 solar panels. Okay, this lets you change settings to that inverter to get the best use out of it and to protect your batteries. It will work with both lead acid, it will work with lithium, and some other chemistries. Now right now I'm using lithium batteries. These are all basically came out of stuff like laptop batteries and stuff like that. They're called 18650s, and I'm basically using this to run my home. Okay, so right now though, with the sun out, these are here just being charged and maintained fully charged. These are set up with fusing, and if you can see on the side here, I'll get it at a different angle. You can see here it's got some fusing, and the way this works is this stuff some people come up with and design for the community that does this type of thing, and this tabbing, it has its own individual fuses per cell. Okay, and then you see I got a wire here that connects to that tabbing. It helps to bring all this energy through this wire and make the connection here. Now, the nice thing about these is they don't damage easily unless you overcharge them or over discharge them. Just like any battery, if you overcharge it, it's not good, and if you undercharge them, it's not good. But the difference between these cells and like lead acid, I can run these down probably 80-90% of its capacity, and it can sit there for days and not hurt it. Then charge it back up fully, and then continue using it like normal. A lead acid battery, if you left it down for days, then they sulfate, and it's a process where when they charge and discharge, the sulfuric acid binds to the plates in the battery, and then after it sets for a long time discharged, it can damage it. The rest of this wiring here is basically for balancing, as you see up here. And I'll zoom in a little closer. But some of these wires, they connect to each connection. Each connection is seriesed to positive, negative, positive, negative. And then what that does, these right here things, they're called longmans. These will discharge this cell, which is all considered one cell, even though it's 150 separate cells. But this right here will discharge this if it gets overcharged and not matched with the rest of the cells. Now there's software that goes with this as well, and then over here, if you can see it, is the batrium system, and some people in Australia designed this, and this communicates with these little long lines. It communicates with this thing down here, and as you can see, this right here is called a shuntman or shuntman, and what it does, it detects the voltage running through this, so then it's able to tell what your maximum, and if you look up here, it'll show you what your voltage is. Right here's a shunt voltage, and then this is how much it's either charging or discharging. If this is negative, then it's discharging, and it's going to show the watts. It shows you a state of charge, and down here's another voltage. Right now it's 27.8, almost 28 volts. The highest and lowest cell, lowest is 3.91, the highest is 3.95. It runs at 0.04 variance, and usually it's the number 2 right here, and that one always runs just a little bit lower, but that much is just doesn't really amount to much at all. Okay, but the nice thing is that this right here will display a graph, and it gives you an idea of what your batteries are doing, how well charged they are, and as they run down, this will actually give you more information to show you balance. It shows heat. These little points right in here is showing basically the temperature in Celsius, and this software is basically running on a separate laptop, but I can remote into this laptop with a program called TeamViewer, so that I can have my other computer, my personal computer, anywhere. As long as I have Wi-Fi connection, I can connect to this laptop and make changes, check on the system, and make sure everything is maintained properly. I can log into this software, which controls the inverter charger, and make changes to it. And I can actually tell it to charge from the sun only. I can tell this thing to charge from the grid. So if these batteries get too low charge-wise throughout the night, which I've done multiple tests, and they'll run all night and part of the next day, but if they do happen to get low, then this right here can be programmed to switch and charge through the software, or you can have it not. And the nice thing about this, once the batteries are full, and that's what I like about this particular device, and it just came out last year in 2019 in like January, February time frame, is this device is both an off-grid and an on-grid inverter. So you get the best of both worlds, and once you learn the difference, off-grid is mainly for just running power, and it doesn't connect to the grid. This one, and it shows a display up here. It's hard to see probably within the camera. This shows the battery, and you see these little things going into the battery, going up to the grid, coming in from the panel, and then this right here is the load. So basically it shows you that everything is working properly, and that the sun is basically charging the battery, keeping it charged. It's supplying voltage to the load, which is certain circuits in my home that I use for backup. Okay, and of course I'll show you the load. All these circuits here are set up on backup. This is a generator transfer switch box. Okay, and let me get over here so I can make sure I got a good picture here. Okay, so this is set up with different items within my home: master bedroom, dining area, master closet, bath, and wash. Bedroom number 2, which is the one that has my Wi-Fi and internet running, so that keeps that up and going. This is for the refrigerator and the kitchen area, and then this one is for the living room and the front wall. So all these are connected through this conduit. It goes into the breaker box, and then there's 2 wires. The one goes to the breaker that goes to the feed for those circuits. The other one actually has a wire nut which hooks up to the wiring that goes to these particular circuits. So with this switch up, all these switches are up, I'm running from the power coming from the inverter, which is basically all the time. So then if the grid happens to go down, and I could shut the main power switch over here, all these circuits stay up. I lose no power on any of those circuits at all. Now, if I decide I don't want to run those circuits and the grid is up and I don't want to use the sun, I can just flip these down. Or if I'm doing maintenance to the system, I flip these down, run from the grid, and then the system is not pulling from the inverter anymore. Okay, this inverter has 2 wires. If you look down here, it's got one that comes out, goes into the wall. That's the grid tie inverter part of it. The other one comes out and it goes over here to this switch box. This one here, when the batteries are full and the sun is producing enough to create extra power, it will divert this energy in through this outlet here and will supply energy to my home on that particular circuit, because your wiring comes into your home on 2 legs, the A and a B, because it takes 220 or 240, however you want to look at it, to run like a air conditioner, dryer, or anything that's on a 220 or 240, I guess it is, circuit. But this is just the one side. So everything that's on that leg will get extra power going in, and then if that supplies all that energy and above, then once it satisfies it all, it'll actually start feeding back to the grid. Now, if right here on this right here and on my software, it will show arrows pointing back to the left, and this represents the grid over on the left side. I don't know if you can see it or not. Now I'll show you. The meter will be running backward as long as that is pointing to the left. And I'll show you. Okay. Now right now the meter is going to the right. And what is going on is the air conditioner is running. So there's pulling enough power that this will run to the right, as long as I'm pulling the air conditioner or anything, it's 220. But once that shuts off, this will actually start running backward. And it's where it's overproducing, but it doesn't produce enough to take care of the air conditioner. But mainly this setup is to reduce my electric bill, and it's to have emergency power. Okay, so we'll show you what's actually producing the energy. And I have just a hair over 1 kilowatt solar panels. I have a wind turbine. Right now the wind's not blowing, so it's not doing anything. And then I'll show you, here is a setup that I designed. Took a while and a little bit of trial and error, but this system is 4 270 watt panels. It tracks east and west, north and south. This has a cylinder here for tracking north and south. It retracts and extends depending on where the sun's at. If you look up here, that little ball-like thing, which the sun's glaring, there we go. There's a little ball there. It has 4 little, about like solar panels, just a little solar cell basically. And each one of those produce a voltage and tells the system And I'll show you here in a second. Once it has the light shining more on one side than the other, then it goes that direction. So basically that's how it keeps track of the sun. So right now it's facing directly toward the sun, and it's able to, the whole system is able to get more energy out of your daily time instead of just being in one position. One position isn't as efficient as following the sun. Now there's more work and stuff like that as far as mounting, but you get a lot more energy throughout the day. Okay, and you can somewhat see there's a control system here, and you can manually move the panels, and it gives you a north, south, east, and west. There's settings for it. There's a battery, and then I got a small panel that you can see up here. Okay, let me get back here. Now, that was just a little small 10-watt panel, but what that does is comes into a charger that's in this box, and this charger keeps this battery charged, and then it supplies energy to the controller and the actuator here and the actuator here. Okay, so this was the east-west, and once you set it up, it's pretty well self-sufficient. This is pretty much all aluminum. It's a 3x3 with an 1/8 inch wall, I think. Some of it's 3/16. But what I done is I had a guy fabricate the pole, and it's a 1/2 inch thick with a 1-foot diameter plate, and it's welded to a 4-inch square tubing steel. And at the top of it, it's just got a couple plates that's bolted in here. And then I got a bushing that's inside the aluminum. That way this pin that goes through it doesn't wear the aluminum or the metal. So basically the pin right here is held, and then this bushing that's in this, and the same way up here in this pivot joint right here, and this is the same way on those. There's a pin that goes through 2 bushings that's impregnated with oil, and they're pressed into the aluminum, so you don't wear the aluminum. It's just a pin going inside a bushing on this side, and the pin will pop out, and this can be taken apart fairly easily. And I want to make it to where it's easy to set up and easy to tear down. So if you move, you can take your system with you. All you have to do is unbolt it at the bottom, cut your wires or unbury them, take the system apart. Of course, you would take your panels all off the system first. The way I put it on there, I took one side and put it on there, then tilted it, and then put the other side on there, and used mounts. These are all regular rails for mounting solar panels, and they clamp to this 2-inch tubing. Okay, this 2-inch tubing can be bought in, I think, 6 or 7 foot lengths. Can't think of it, might have been 5 foot. But anyways, I do have all the dimensions of everything written down in case somebody wants something like this or wants to build it themselves. I'll give you the links and everything, even the places I purchased this stuff from. So if you need help with that, total you're going to be running at probably close to probably $800 to $1,000 for the tracker. Okay, if you can get it cheaper as far as the metal and the stuff for it, you know, of course, you know, you got to have the electronic part, you know, the actuators. This all comes as one setup: the actuators, the electronics, 2 of them, the eye, the panel was separate, but the eye, and then this has a what's called an anemometer. It spins with the wind. If we get a storm in the wind, or if it's just a windy day, if this turns a certain speed, this system will be told to level out. Now, you have to program it, and it took a while to tweak that, but what it'll do, it will go completely east, and then it will go west, and it's like a timing. So you have to keep tweaking with it till you get it where you want it. Because like right now, where it's all the way to the west, or pretty well close to that, I think. Let me see if the lights are on. No, it's not all the way to the west yet, but once it's all the way to the west, it's got to tilt all the way to the east till basically that cylinder bottoms out. Once that cylinder bottoms out, then it will count off so many seconds, because you just have to keep adding to it. And then what it'll do, once that time's up, it'll reverse and it'll go up. And what you want it to do is have the panels completely leveled out. Then the wind will pass over the panels without catching the air and possibly damaging the system, whether it be the actuators or bending some of the aluminum or damaging the panels. Not quite sure how much wind it would take. We've had some pretty windy storms come through, and so far it has not damaged it. So that's the nice thing about it, is it's has withstanded quite a bit of pressure. But before I got all this going, but for the most part, you know, I haven't had any bad storms come through without this actually being leveled out. So since I got this, and then the anemometer comes with the whole control system. Got it on eBay, not real expensive, and seems to be doing really well. So I've been putting it through its paces. I've tested a lot of things to see what it'll do or not do. So far, as far as the weight and, you know, moving the panels, has had a bit of problem. They're rated for so many pounds of push and pull. They are 18-inch as far as the travel, and you can get shorter, and I think you might be able to get a little bit longer, but 18 inches seems to be working really well. Okay, so, and when you order these right here, are specifically made for the solar panels. These are like a little half round. This is a round nut, and it's got a little gripper washer, and it's got a T. It goes in this slot, so it's really nice for mounting these. So what I done is I bought 12 got 12 of these. 4 of them that goes in the middle doesn't have to have these, so it's just this nut by itself. These are just for using on the outside edge like they are now. So you'll have 2, 4, 6, 8 that will be used on the outside edges, and they're really easy to adjust. You just take a electric screwdriver, nut driver of some kind. You back them out, you readjust them, you snug them back down. I mean, they snug really easily. You don't have to super tight anything. You just snug it. So what I did, I set my drill at just a really low setting to where it's snugged, it grips into the metal, and they have not shifted or moved any at all. So as you can see, as I back up here, this is tracking, and it's tilted some to the south, and it's tilted to the west. The sun actually comes up when it comes over my hill. This will be tilted toward the north and toward the east, and as the sun comes up, it kind of runs like an arc. It doesn't run directly straight up above because of where I'm located in Indiana, and, you know, so in the United States, depending on where you're at, how it may run. But you want the system facing north and south, and that's how it's set up. I found due north, and pointed it off of the real north. I don't think it was the magnetic north, I think it was real north. But anyways, you get that position, and it don't have to be perfect, but you get it close. And then what it does is, as the sun moves, comes up, and then it tilts a little bit to the south, and then as the sun comes over and progresses, it'll actually kind of go back toward the north and to the west. So it actually almost gets behind this tree, and it's not much, but it almost shades my panels in the evening right now during the summertime. So right now we're in July. Now by this winter, this thing will readjust and hit the sun actually comes over probably in that area, comes up, arches through the sky, and then goes down over in that area. Because of the winter time, the sun is actually to the south a lot more than it is during summer. So then that does that arc, which this will adjust on its own and then it'll run that east-west arc without having to do anything to it. The setup I had before this, which I've done, I think, some videos and maybe some pictures. If you check my YouTube channel, it should be on there. But I had a stationary set of 2, and I had a wooden, right here where this little anemometer is. That used to be my old solar setup, and it done just the east and west. Okay, I figured, and I had this system with the inverter before I switched this, just to see how well it would do. I was only getting a max about 4 kilowatt a day, okay, to charge the batteries for the house and feedback. Now it actually has doubled, so I get right around 6 to 8 on a good day, very little clouds, and a good clear day. So it's almost doubled it by tracking the sun with all 4 panels. So that's one thing I do like about this setup. And of course I went with the red, white, and blue. My tower over there with my wind turbine is the same, red, white, and blue. So I do like being a little bit patriotic with my setups. And if you're interested in maybe having a system like this, you're tired of having power lost and losing your electricity and being in the dark, or you have emergency power you need for probably health reasons like concentrators for oxygen and stuff, this would be a good setup. You wouldn't have probably $8,000, maybe $10,000 invested. Okay, it just depends on how far we got to run the wiring and all that. That would be not with a wind turbine, it was just to be the solar. But the panels cost me, they average about $1 a watt. So, you know, if you're going to have 1,200 watts, then you're going to have probably 1,200, 1,500 invested in the panels, unless they get cheaper, which over time I'm sure they will. But the nice thing about it is I have ran my wiring under the ground. You can't even see where I dug because I didn't dig. I actually used a tool to create a crevice and buried it about 6 to 8 inches in the ground all the way from my house to over here. Now, since I switched the setup, I still got to bury this little short span, but I didn't want to bury it and finalize it all until I knew everything was working good. So it's about to that point where I can. I do got a ground wire I got to add to it as well to make sure it's got earth ground in case lightning strikes. So you can see about right in here there's a big ground lug. So I got a piece I'm going to hook to that and then bury it, and it's going to pop up and it's going to hook to a big old nut over there. So anyways, and I'll show you what it does if you get a bunch of wind. So I spun that real hard. You hear the system changing. And once this slows down and doesn't turn, then the system will go back to normal operation. This is the protection mode for the wind. So right now it's going north and it's going east. So you can see both cylinders are leveling out. Okay, and it's going to go pretty well fully extend on the north. And it's going to go completely to the east. And I had to move out of the way because it was about to come down on my head. The nice thing about this too is I got it high enough to where you can mow under this and it's not in your way for mowing. You know, when this is tilted fully, you want to be able to mow under it. Now, the north is done and it's starting to go back down to tilt south. The east is done. It'll pause for a little while and then it'll start going back the other direction. And it's starting to go back. So it doesn't take long to go through the process. Now, north should be about done. You got it just a hair tilting toward the south. Not perfectly level, but I like keeping it because of the way the wind blows around here, I want it just a hair south. That way the wind is actually hitting it kind of like a little louver on the back of a car or something, you know, just to where the wind catches on top of it, but enough to jerk it around. Okay, now if you look, the system's flattening out. See, now it's, if the storm was coming and started blowing, it would stay this way, and then you could set the time on how long it will hold this position, and it keeps it from damaging it. Okay, so it's not set for a very long time. You can set it from, I think, just a minute or so to up to 5-10 minutes or longer, but I've never really needed it. I mean, it has to slow down on the spin on the little black anemometer there before it'll ever go back. So if that continues to spin fast, this will never change and go back to sun tracking. But as long as it's turning slow, so it's just barely turning, I spun it with my finger to get it to activate. And it shouldn't take too long until it'll go back to tracking the sun. So then this right here will start doing the tracking again. So it detects there's more sun on this side than there is on this side just as soon as this times out. Okay, so when the system times out from the air, then it will switch. So there wasn't a lot of literature that really explained everything really well that came with this. It is pretty much either China made or Japanese. I can't remember where it came from, but there was nothing I could find anywhere that was as cheap and would do what I was wanting it to do. So I'm getting about 32 minutes in this video, so I'm going to cut her short here in just a little bit, but I just wanted to show you the operation of how this system works with the wind. And the thing I like about it, you know, you don't have to supply power to the controller, because it just has to have between I think it's 12 volts, and then I think it'll go up as high as 24. Okay, so as long as it's a 12 volt system, you can use a different type battery setup if you want. You can leave it out here. You can run electrical wire to it and supply it from somewhere in the home, or from, you know, I thought about maybe running something from underneath the home, but you make sure you got some kind of breaker system or fusing. That way, if something shorts throughout anywhere, then it's a safety. You know, all my stuff right here, there's a fuse that's coming in from the solar panel. Then the same way on the other stuff in here. I also have fusing in here. The controller has fusing. You want plenty of fusing. That way, if anything shorts, this will disconnect. Okay. Now, while I'm talking about the fusing, the system in the house has breakers set up on everything, because you want to be able to shut it all down and work on it. And if there's a severe storm in your home, what I do is I disconnect the breakers. And as you see here, these are DC breaker disconnects, and you got a button, you can push it and you disconnect the solar. I do the positive and the negative. Here's the negative. Here's a positive and negative breakers on the battery itself. So if I need to disconnect that battery from the charge controller completely for maintenance or whatever, or if for some reason something shorts, lightning strike comes in, whatever, then those will pop a breaker. These have the same. And then I actually have a complete home breaker, or surge protector actually. And if you look at the top, I don't know if you see it, but that right there is a surge device that is for the entire breaker box. Because I had lightning strike here probably early in the year, and it damaged some stuff around the home. So I researched and found that, because I lost actually about $4,000 worth of stuff. Air conditioner, heater, garage door closer, TV, internet modem, printer, and on and on and on. So, and this video is not really about all that. So just wanted to show you guys this is something you can build yourself. If you got any questions, you need help, let me know. Be more than happy to help you. And if you just want the system and want me to install it, then we can work something out with that as well. And you don't have to worry about being out of power. And it's really nice, you know, if you've been out of power very much, or you're in an area where the trees are grown into the solar, or not the solar, but the power lines, and you lose power quite often. And you know, when you've got to have it, it's the worst time, you know. And then right now when it's hot, a fan would be better than nothing, you know. So and when it's cold, same way. And the nice thing about it, I do run on natural gas, so I can actually run my blower on my furnace, or not my furnace, but my fireplace, and I don't have to worry about being without heat. So the little blower would be able to be ran from my solar setup and my batteries for actually probably for a few days, even without sun. So I would keep my home heated, nothing would freeze up, and then I would have lighting. And of course I run digital lighting, everything is LED, and I do have a LED floodlights on the outside, and I have everything is run basically off the minimum amount of power. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.